everybody, and sometimes even the energy might be misdirected, but you can see the energy that people don't want to have anything. They want a clean break from the past, and that is what is most important. That is why structures I imagine that have nothing to do with the structures you in the media are used to, which are structures are just people in various parts of the country with everything they can. This time around, in some cases, using their own money. I am raising money from people. I came out of detention with no money, but people are donating through crowdfunding to my campaign. People who can afford to do that at a time of economic hardship are people who are desperate to see change. I mean, real political change, not something that will put them back where they used to be in the last 22, 23 years now.
All right, we have a lot going on. This seems to be, like you've said, a sort of optimism that something can change.
Yes.
You started it, in 2019 with your message of take Nigeria back or take it back.
Take it back.
What kind of candidate should Nigerians look to salvage the situation in the country in the mode of an alternative to the PDP and APC candidate?
Yes. For me, my recommendations are very, very clear. Anyone who has been part of governance since 1999 in particular, if you've been governor, you've been vice president, you've been a member of any of these political parties that we are all running away from, should not be part of those under consideration, active consideration by citizens. We have to have a clean break from the past, because we have to be careful at this time not to run from frying pan to some serious fire. And that's my recommendation, that do it by way of elimination series. Don't have anything to do with anybody who cannot present a record that is clean and clear about their performance in the past. So that's where we should start from.
All right, there's this idea of that's what Nigerians say, lesser evil. Some of the view that you need to look at, okay, what's the best chance of keeping the PDP and the APC out? Let's look for the candidates or candidates who have a greater chance. And then these candidates may also be thinking, okay, can we pull some of the big names, in quote, big names, from these parties, the PDP and the APC, to our side as a third force party to be able to wrest power from them? That's the first thing. So we're looking at maybe lesser evil now. What do you think about this concept of the lesser evil as far as this election is concerned?
I have never met any evil that is less. Evil is evil. I've never met a junior evil or a small evil. Never heard about them before. I've never heard of an apprentice evil before. Evil is evil. Nobody should go for the lesser evil, especially when the opportunity has presented itself for you to go with the angels. And it is the idea sold into voters sometimes to say, look, yes, they're admitting that they're bad, but they say, why don't you just look at one of us? Yes, he's bad, but he's not as bad as the rest of us. That is how we got here in 2015. The concept of a lesser evil, a former general lesser evil, who has now established himself as the biggest evil to walk the face of this land. So why would anybody do that to themselves again? Especially when you have experience at your doorstep to teach you that this is a mistake we've made in the past, and we should never repeat it. And when I say that when history repeats itself, it's always even a bigger tragedy.
But let's also talk about, it's a good thing that you've mentioned the repeat of 2015, and we understand that in 2015 there was a conversation about the third force. It wasn't maybe very prominent.
Maybe it was 2019 you meant. 2015 wasn't, I didn't see third force in 2015.
So we're talking about, the current government that took power at the time, and we understood that there was a measure. A measure of political parties for us to have, the APC now as a government. And a lot of people describe that as a third force. And I think that Nigerians have been waiting for, the same pattern, to have political parties come together and, adopt a certain party, or, combination of several parties to form a government. Now, we know how Nigerians and a lot of persons were very, strong on this current government, and what's the way forward? What's the solution? It will solve all of the problems. Do you think that we might just also be at the verge of, a repetition of 2015? Because if you look at the outcome, juxtaposing that with what was proposed at the time and what we're seeing now, is nothing to write home about. What can we look out for? What should we do not to repeat the same mistakes?
I mean, what to do is to look at some of the parameters that led us to 2015, the hysteria, the conjuring of facts, lies outrightly being told. And the biggest mistake perhaps that was made at that time was the lack of interest in investigating some of the things that were thrown at us. When they said, oh, this person has these characteristics, people didn't even check. We didn't fact check. And most of the candidates at that time actually did not talk to Nigerian people. They didn't present any manifestos. People were on their own presenting manifestos. And the part of the hysteria at that time was people saying, well, even if I catch him robbing a bank, I'll support him. If he doesn't have a certificate that he can present the NEPA bill, I'll support him. And here we are with the NEPA bill without light. 7 years later, without electricity, everything has been shut down. If you are seeing those patterns repeating themselves, as we are seeing in some cases now.
But you supported this government?
No, it's not true.
You never?
You're a journalist. You can present. If I ever, supported Buhari, people say that because they knew that I was diametrically opposed to the corruption that was going on at that time. And everybody could have taken my stories and ran with it. People could swear by my stories in those days. I mean, when I was actively writing for Sahara Reporters, which I haven't done in like 4 years. And it's the same thing now that the political parties on the other side are doing with the APC government. They take Sahara Reporter stories and use it. They say, hey, here comes the corruption, you drove us away from. So we have been consistent on our side. But to say that I campaigned for Buhari, lie. Or that I tweeted or asked anybody to vote for Buhari.
There's a video making rounds, showing you, swarmed by APC supporters when the presidential election result was announced.
Yes, because I was the first, Sahara Reporter was the first to announce all the results, even when INEC was still battling with it. So I was returning from the International Conference Center in Abuja, ICC, and going to attend the press conference that Buhari was supposed to hold at his campaign headquarters. And when the young people there saw me, they came around and meet him up and said, wow, this is Sowore, the Sahara Reporters. Most people have never, up until that time, met me before. So I was one who personally uploaded the video on my page on YouTube, Sahara TV. And they were saying, change Dole, which is Hausa word for change by force. So there was nothing to it other than that. I found myself in the middle of these young people who were excited to see me, this great journalist in the country. I was similarly mobbed, but I didn't have the video. In Ghana, when I went to cover the Ghanaian election, that produced the current president of Ghana, his first time, because nobody thought that he would win. And we were reporting because we were in a hotel with all these international observers, and they had gotten the result. The Americans had gotten the result showing that this guy had won. So we broke the story. When we went to the headquarters of the campaign of this particular candidate, the current president of Ghana, and we introduced ourselves, we were equally mobbed. Like, how did you guys get the results of the Ghanaian election? So, and I still get that even up to today. Most people recognize me for my work of Sahara Reporters than they even treat me now as an activist. Because they always have a story that they refer to as one big breaking story or an investigative report that has something to do that changed their lives. So that was what happened at that time. And they took it and ran with it, tweaked it and said, oh, I was jubilating. Even though I had a camera around my neck, I had a tag that enabled me to enter ICC where the election was being presented. So I never.
Yeah, so the target. Yes. And PACT was almost a big deal in 2019, and a lot of you Nigerians hoped that would be some sort of force. It didn't work. I think you've talked about it several times.
Yes.
So we don't have to go into it. Is there a possibility, looking at the mood, right now, as far as the 2023 elections are concerned, is there a possibility that yourself, as presidential candidate of the AAC, will partner with another alternative party? They say that was because they are too big, like it's the top four in EPL. Probably maybe the presidential candidate of Labour Party, who seems to be garnering a lot of attention so far, and a lot of social media support. Young people think that he is the one to lead the Common Alliance with Peter Obi of the Labour Party in the next election.
We are very different people. We are different ideologically, we are different in terms of conviction, history. That it's impossible for me to abandon what my convictions are, what my beliefs are, to form an alliance with someone who is part of the chip of the old bloc. And if I am opposed to PDP and APC, I cannot then jump into bed.
You see Obi as the chip of the old bloc?
Of course.
But a lot of people out there don't see him as, they see him as somebody who, who was in the PDP and saw that there was a possibility they have to pass the money to get the nomination. And he left.
Where did you think they got the money for the nomination in 2019 with Atiku? They paid off delegates. So how did they get the money? Who shared the money? Are we pretending that that didn't happen? So it's why I cannot be deceived to be part of such a movement as they call it. I've been disobedient my entire life.
Okay, so more quickly, I mean, it's the same question, but the different dimension. There are several words out there. It's a good thing that we have here, and we're asking them, do you have any plans to collapse your structure?
No.
You will never, at any point in time.
I might have people join a political party.
What about your structure? I'm talking about your structure. Are there plans for you and the structure that you are with now, to join other structures?
I just said to you that it's not possible. These are races that will run into the end.
No matter the outcome.
The finish line.
All right.
Yes.
What kind of candidate are you? What are you bringing to the table this time? Because we're looking at the mode of an alternative, presidential candidate Nigeria should look to. For you, as one of those who are outside the top two, the big two, as it were, what kind of candidature will you be presenting to Nigeria?
Well, the cleanest break you can get from the past is very torturous. Past is the best way to describe it. You have someone who's been consistently fighting for justice for 3 decades, and like I used to tell people, I have scars to show for it. So you don't need to ask. I have history, verifiable, documented history, and I have also stated clearly, eloquently, what Nigeria needs. The solutions that we need to pull Nigeria out of the doldrums that we have been for since 62 years now. And there's no doubt that you don't have to look for it, what I represent. And for those who might have needs to research, you can be clearly told that I'm the only candidate in Nigeria today with a website where I spelled out the policies and ideas.
Yeah, the rest of them don't have a website?
Not that I know of. Some of them don't even have manifestos.
Okay, I would have said talked about one, but I think recently.
So, so you can find these ideas completely explained and broken down to the level of everybody. But most importantly, if you are looking for leaders with character in the next dispensation, with integrity, leaders with vision and mission-driven leadership, here you got one, all packed into one, because this is what elections are about.
What's the ideology?
we're very socialist welfareists that the people of this country must own their resources and their wealth must be distributed to them. I don't want a Nigeria that continues on the path of what Oxfam said in 2015, an international NGO, that 5 Nigerians are richer than 100 million Nigerians. And why is that? It's because only a few of our people have access to the wealth of the majority of the people.
How are you going to address that? Will you confiscate and redistribute wealth?
No, it's not confiscation, it's investment in people. You know, we're at the point now where universities have been closed down for 7 months. And the reason is simply because the priority of the government in power is not education. And if you invest heavily in education, you have redistributed wealth because it's the most powerful and clear-cut empowerment citizens can get. And that will redistribute wealth. But I must also state clearly that where it is clear that we need to nationalize companies that were taken away from Nigeria by Nigerians under shady deals, we will take those countries back, because what we've discovered about all the privatization that's been done, most of it, 90% of it, is that we privatize, sell at below market rate to these individuals, and we give them grants, allowances. Yesterday, we had to give 2 companies or a few companies 16 trillion naira worth of tax rebates. And this is not the first time. You have the biggest corporate welfare policy probably in the world. But our citizens cannot afford to be given 1.2 trillion naira to reopen public universities. You have an accountant general who could steal and take home 150 billion naira. But universities cannot get 200 billion naira or their first tranche in this 1.2 billion naira arrangement that have been agreed upon since 2014. And you have 20 million of kids out of school. You have no hospitals in your country. You don't have infrastructure that is worth anything. So until that reinvestment is done in those areas, you cannot redistribute wealth. Redistribution of wealth is not only forcefully taking over properties, it's about letting the citizens own what belongs to them.
All right.
Yeah, have a bite.
All right.
I really would have to ask this, but in a few seconds. I mean, there's several factors that we're looking at to shape, the elections in 2023.
Yes.
And we've had issues of, the beavers. It was said that the best thing that this government has done is the Electoral Act. And the introduction of the beavers, it would be impossible to rig. But it feels like we're hearing different reports at this point, and that's on the one hand. We've also seen that some citizens have actually sued INEC over the fact that 7 million persons have been unable to complete, their voter registration. I'd like to share your thoughts on this and what you think, this would mean for the elections in 2023.
I think we always make this mistake without verification of saying that one device will change the outcome of elections. It wasn't Beavers, I think there was another one before.
Smart card,
yes. The fingerprint reader. It didn't work. It only worked for a few months, and then it became a liability. It is the credibility of these electoral officers that matters the most to me. And INEC right now is suffering from credibility. It's people, dominated by card-carrying members of a major political party in the country, the APC. I'm more worried about that than Beavers, because Beavers is going to be garbage in, garbage out. It is what is rigged that will still be uploaded to a server. What is important is to have people with credibility, and this is going to take a lot more than just Beavers. It's going to take real reorganizing and restructuring of our electoral body, INEC. But what we do between now and election is to stay on their case until we are guaranteed free and fair elections.
Right. I'm afraid that's much time for us on the program this morning with you. We should have more time probably talking about it with you, but hey, this is the most you can take. Omoyele is the presidential candidate of the African Action Congress. He's my guest on this first discussion right here on the Breakfast of Plus Media. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. And
look forward to having you on set when campaigns kick off.
I'll be back.
All right, fantastic.
Yes.
All right, we have more discussions up next right here on the Breakfast.